Hello everyone, welcome to another episode on OneOfOne Debates. Today's episode we're going to talk about ADHD, and our guest is my scientific thinking TA, Kenzy Mckay. And Kenzy, you told me you've had ADHD, so can you talk about that a little bit more?
So I was actually late diagnosed, like most women are. I was in my 20s when I got diagnosed with ADHD. I was almost a senior. I was going to graduate from my degree. And I'd spent some time in psychiatrist offices, and they were always like, oh, you just have anxiety and depression. And it was always an issue where there'd be things in between that didn't really fit in with either anxiety or depression. And they'd just be like, oh, that's an anomaly, it's an outlier, it's just another thing. But they'd never try to relate it to each other. Until one psychiatrist was like, hey, this sounds like it could be ADHD. And we kind of put together that the person I was seeing at the time and my best friend both also have ADHD. So she was like, maybe you relate to them for a reason. And that was the first time someone ever got me tested. And the same day I got tested, I got the results immediately that I do have ADHD.
طب why did ليه past doctors did not think that way? يعني what made كل الدكتورز اللي قبليهم just think okay that you don't have an ADHD?
There's this misconception that ADHD needs to be diagnosed in childhood. That you're going to show signs from when you're younger. And the majority of ADHD research has been done on boys and men.
Why?
For the longest time, it was believed that only boys could have ADHD because they were seen as more hyperactive, more rowdy. Women were taught socially for the longest time to act like ladies and to suppress these things. So there's a term called masking where we hide our symptoms and kind of copy what other people do to act like we don't have ADHD. And women are taught to mask a lot faster and a lot sooner than boys are.
From an early age? From
an earlier age, yeah.
Okay.
So it's very common nowadays for women to be late diagnosed rather than boys. Like, boys are diagnosed a whole lot sooner. And then there's also the misconception that since your symptoms will start in childhood, since they're harder to spot in girls, and it presents slightly differently, and most of the research is done on boys, they don't really catch it. And then you're older, and suddenly it's like, oh, you're too old to get an ADHD diagnosis.
But isn't that stereotype going away? Well, it's still there.
People are working on it. They're talking about it. There's a lot of creators online nowadays talking about ADHD and spreading more awareness. And I think that that's great to see. But as women, it is very likely that you'll be diagnosed late. ADHD's changed quite a bit research-wise. Recently, instead of having ADD and ADHD, with one being like all hyperactive and one being people who can't focus, they've made it all one. So now it's all classified as ADHD, but there are 3 types.
So what are the types?
There's inattentive, so people who struggle to focus. Hyperactive, which are the people who fidget and can't sit still. And then there's combined type. So you have a combination of both kind of issues. So I'm combined type. I don't necessarily fidget often, or I can sit still if I have to, but you'll find me like moving my leg or playing with something. Sometimes I like to have those fidget spinner rings. So I can just be playing with my rings and it's not noticeable or outwardly annoying. But I would, like, we were trying to relate it back to signs I might have had as a kid. And they're subtle as I would always be Googling in class.
Were they obvious for you? Obvious for you as a kid?
Not necessarily, but I did have this problem when I was younger in school where certain classes where I was struggling, I would need to like keep doodling to focus. And I had a lot of teachers complaining that I'm drawing in my notebook. But I'm answering my questions correctly. Like when they ask me something in class, I'm answering them. And there was actually this whole meeting with my parents and everything about how she's not paying attention because she's drawing in her notebook. And then they were like, is she answering questions in class correctly? Yes.
So
is she answering her exams correctly? Yes.
So your marks were good?
So my marks were good and my class participation was fine. It's not like I was focused on the drawing. I was doodling so that I could focus. Okay. And the agreement that we ended up coming to was that I would bring a small notebook with me that I could doodle in so that it wasn't in my class notebook. But they agreed that I could keep doing it. And it was never something that was assigned to anyone. They were just like, okay, you just want to doodle to focus. They were never thinking about the fact that I needed something external to help me focusing. And it was a sign that was missed, among other things.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So, is doodling or doing something on the side while doing a task is some form of عشان يعني from my experience
Mhm.
my notebooks my worksheets كلها مليانة the quiz we had
Yeah.
last كلها رسومات literally while I'm doing the quiz
If it
كلها
helps you pay attention, it might be.
it's like 30 seconds على جنب.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sometimes it helps
Wow.
distract people who are anxious. Sometimes
No,
it's people who
مش
are
anxiety.
ADHD.
It's just
like for me, I found that multitasking helps me a lot. Music helps me focus.
I can multitask.
Yeah.
I found that I can multitask.
But
Okay.
multitasking is not an ADHD sign.
Not by itself, no. Being able to multitask by itself is not a sign of ADHD, but people with ADHD are better at it.
Yes, okay. But like, so for example, doing things on the side unconsciously while having a task at hand, is that a form of ADHD? Some form, type,
if it
level?
helps you focus on the task at hand, it means that there is an attention issue there. That there's something that may need to be addressed with your attention.
So, in my case, يعني if I didn't do that on the side, I would lose attention.
You would just lose focus altogether.
Yes.
Okay, so there is an attention issue there.
Good?
Yeah.
Wow. So I have ADHD.
So one of the biggest things of ADHD that's classified with is called executive dysfunction. And it's like wanting to do a task and knowing what to do in the task but not being able to do the task.
Yes.
It's a task paralysis kind of thing. It's like if I turned on a hot stove and I told you to put your hand on it. You physically have the ability to lift your hand up
but
and
your
put
brain
it down
cannot.
over top. But your brain will stop you every time. Like your hand will just freeze
Wow.
before you ever touch the stove.
Yes.
So you can't do it, but physically you can. That's what doing tasks can be like for someone with ADHD when they're not being treated. That's what executive dysfunction is like.
I think a great example للسؤال اللي سألوه اللي هو have the stereotype stopped إنه now my brother is being اللي هو okay do you have ADHD people are like seeing the trend أنا I may have been doing when as I can memorize I have been doing so but I was never اللي هو do you have ADHD or not.
It was never called out with you.
It was never called out أصلا اللي هو شقي.
Yes.
Well, I've always been.
And that's why it was commonly thought to be with boys, because with boys, هو شقي is something that people see a lot.
No.
So they were like, oh, boys are always rowdy, الولاد
Wow.
أشقية. Like they were like, okay, so it's a common boy thing.
Yeah, I had اللي هو parent meetings بقى a lot. I didn't do well in school خالص.
Yeah.
But outside of school I was thriving. In terms of اللي هو بقى starting things, doing side hustles, اللي هو doing things I love, which is by the way لحد ما still the case in uni. يعني in uni I'm doing fairly good عشان اللي هو I'm trying to force myself اللي هو discipline والجو ده. But on the side يعني the things that I want to do I'm really thriving at them.
Okay.
بس بالذات الحاجة أنا مش عارف أعملها مش بعرف أقعد على بعضي.
See, I had a combination of things. When I was younger, I was good at school. And I was doing a lot of things on the side. Like, I would be in all of the clubs and after-school activities and all of that.
Yes, me too.
But I got something in school where I was able to get away on just knowing things. Like, I didn't have to do as much work. I could just know things and be fine.
I relied more on my general knowledge.
And I wasn't a very social person at school. I was a very avid reader. I was more into that kind of stuff. So I wasn't really... All of my work would be... I was doing a lot of art stuff on the side. I was in sports teams. And I was doing a lot of reading and I would study. Like, not really study, but I would read about things. And so I kind of knew what I needed to know in general, in terms of general knowledge. So I was able to get away with that in school. It wasn't until, like, senior year I decided to... In my last 2 years of school, I switched to IB.
Oof.
Yes. I graduated with an IB diploma, and thankfully I did well enough, but it's where things really hit me. Like, I survived my IGCSEs, but the symptoms really hit me because the executive dysfunction got worse. And the more I needed to learn how to study and work is the more I realized that I never learned how to study.
You just came by.
Yeah, exactly. I was just kind of cruising along with it. And
what was that? Because you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I was able to. I was able to just get away with just knowing.
The other part اللي هو you're saying اللي هو knowing how to study. Until now I can't do it.
Yeah, you
I have to be
try
just
different methods.
I force myself عشان eventually I just need to get the A minus B plus. But if it's something that I love or how I want to do on my own, I smash learning. I'm just going and I will go hours. I can show you the tabs كمان شوية. I have like 20 tabs مفتوحة 20 different topics.
And you pick up all these random different hobbies.
And I learn them
all
all.
Kinds of things. Yeah.
By the way, believe it or not, while doing those مش بحتاج ان انا اقعد distract myself.
Yeah, I learned to draw, I write poetry, I learned to do embroidery, I went through glass painting. I was on so many different sports teams at so many different times. I tried like every sport there was. Sometimes there would be ones that would stick for longer, but nothing would ever stick for the whole time. I would like spend a year on swim team, and then I switched to kickboxing, and then I did tennis, and I did squash, and I joined the basketball team for a bit, like when I was younger.
Do you think not wanting to do the matter itself is related to the ADHD? عشان what we were just saying اللي هو okay, if you want to do the thing, if we're enjoying it, we're not really that distracted.
Yes.
You think
the
it's
problem
related?
is not necessarily wanting to do the thing. You can want to do it, like you want to do your assignment, but there's things in the way. There's
But
issues in the way.
Rarely people want to do their assignments. أصلاً بس يعني
Fair, but you want to get it done.
I understand, but I think the problem is actually there are two problems. دلوقتي في مصر ADHD is not a thing unless مثلا من couple of years يعني in the
It's not as recognized.
yes it's not as recognized. This is a problem. بس actually ايه اللي هيحصل بقى when it is recognized؟ يعني ايه الفرق لما انا اعرف ان انا عندي ADHD؟
It does help a lot actually. I'll get into that in a sec actually. But with your question of like does it have to do with not wanting to do the thing? People with ADHD have a deficiency in dopamine. The reason you pick up so many interests is because
you want more.
It starts providing you with dopamine as you're learning something new, especially if you're good at it. When you're suddenly good at something, that affects your reward pathway directly.
You're just
and so your brain is being rewarded.
We were
with
just
the fact
talking
that you're
about
good at
that like 2 days ago. You know how I'm just maneuvering through everything. Once I get good at it, I'm like next thing.
Exactly. So as you're getting good at something, you can see that you're progressing, and seeing your progress and knowing that you're getting good is rewarding your brain.
Yes.
With the wait, I'm doing it, I'm learning it, I've got it. But then you get good at it and you can do it, and then it's no longer rewarding to you.
That has no effect more, but I'm trying to find.
Okay, so okay, can you go from there? Okay, so then what?
So as soon as something's no longer rewarding to you, it's not giving you the dopamine that you need. You're going on to the next thing. You'll find another hobby. You'll find something else that.
So is that good or bad?
It has both. Yeah, it causes a problem when there's things that you need to do but you can't bring yourself to because it doesn't provide the dopamine.
So if you can just integrate discipline فيها.
It's not necessarily discipline either. In the same way that you, with the hand on the stove example, that you couldn't just discipline yourself to putting your hand on the hot stove.
It's just
you can't really just discipline yourself to doing it, but there's different ways to bring yourself to eventually do it. Starting with something you like, maybe you can start with something that you enjoy that will bring you there. Or, you know, there are times where I need to write a paper and I know exactly what I need to write, but I will sit there in front of an open Word document and not write anything.
And I can envision what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I know exactly what I need to type. Like, I know the exact words that need to go on that page right now, and I can't just type them.
I just discovered in Harden I have ADHD. Literally.
You should definitely get tested.
Yeah.
As for help, you learn how your brain works. So there's a lot more resources to learning why you can't do things and how to get over them. So it's no longer just you lack discipline, and it's no longer blaming yourself. So for the longest time, I've always had this issue.
So it's more unconscious.
Like, yeah, you're more conscious of what you're doing. Like, for the longest time, I was always blaming myself, like, oh, why am I so lazy? Why can't I do this? But it's not that I'm lazy. I want to do my assignment.
It was like this for me in school. عشان كده now I became the complete opposite.
Yeah.
يعني دلوقتي I'm gonna beat myself up if I'm gonna مثلا ايه I'm doing something for a long time وأني مثلا إن أنا أبطلها أو أغيرها. I'm gonna beat myself all day. عشان هو you've done this a million times ago. You're not gonna do it again.
Yeah.
With this
but
sometimes.
It's really not fair to beat yourself up over it, and psychologically it will start to get
It's not fair. بالضبط. ما it starts to get me. واللي هو لا أنت أنت هتكمل عشان you have to عشان اللي هو لا اللي هو you've done it so many times لا this time لا خلاص.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just ends up being toxic.
Exactly, because how you speak to yourself really matters.
It matters. بس عشان
and
برضو.
it can end up hurting you.
وعشان أنا consciously اللي هو I can see myself maneuvering from هنا لهنا. When I look back. Yeah, I can see millions of experiences knowledge وحاجات unrelated and I'm like proud اللي هو I've done all this, I've learned all this.
Yeah.
بس اللي هو مفيش consistent path. This is why بقى قلبت معانا حتة تانية.
That's not always a bad thing. I mean, you find really creative ways to do things. You have loads of skills.
But at some point, I'm like, اللي هو لا, you have to be consistent in something.
You do need to find your thing that you're consistent in.
It's like some blocks just need to have to be consistent. Yeah. So but it was the problem with me with sports. لحد ما قررت السمستر ده okay. I was قبل كده I was okay سباحة كورة تنس مش عارف ايه بتاع بعدها one sport stuck with me which was فروسية because this sport particularly needs so I'm analyzing this as I'm telling to you okay عشان this sport needs recognizably more time to get good at.
You found your forever dopamine.
Yes بالظبط. But then I got good at it. What did I do next? Let's go to the next venture.
Yeah.
And then what did I do? Where did I go? Martial arts. And this is where you never get
good.
You never get the best.
Where you're the best.
You're never the best. Which is why I fell in love with the sport and I got obsessed with it.
That's why also when I stuck to a sport, it ended up being kickboxing. But I had to dip out for studies because I didn't have enough time to constantly be going to trainings. But like since then, I've also been jumping around all sorts of different sports. Like while I was in uni, I joined track and field.
I was
powerlifting. I was like I was going to the gym, and then I started training other people in the gym because I just got good at it and I could do it. And then it was just boring for me. And my trainer at the time, like I had a trainer who I picked up things with. Even though I knew what I was doing and I was training other people, I was like, hey, I'm bored. And so she was really creative with things, and so she'd constantly give me new workouts. We would use machines that are used for other things.
I would just force myself.
Just out of creativity.
I would just so until now I would force myself to doing new things. Yeah. Let's do this new Instagram page. Let's نعمل ده أنا امبارح طلعت بأربع أفكار just because I was so bored and I felt that. So my worst fear كعبد الرحمن and I don't know if that relates is doing nothing.
Yeah.
It's my worst fear. Like I have to do something.
There's always things happening in your head.
Yes.
So you're
always not necessarily like I can't just sit and do nothing. What really fucks with my head إنه I have to do something.
Yeah.
يعني مش أنا مثلا useless but I have to be doing something. لو مش عارف أضع body. يعني if I won't do nothing, that nothing would be walking around.
That is actually kind of a sign of ADHD.
I just can't sit. فاهم قصدي؟
I just can't talk without walking.
Yeah.
This is the problem with me.
بس
I'm always moving around. Like I can't. Don't discuss with me something while sitting, and don't me. Yeah, مثلا even when I'm eating, when I'm thinking, when I'm working, working while moving. Even I'm sitting, I'm moving my legs, and I have never figured out that this is an ADHD sign.
Wow.
It could also be anxiety.
It's not an anxiety, but I think I'm not sure. Maybe.
Or if you have.
What I'm sure of إنه mine is not anxiety.
Yours seems like an attention issue. Yours definitely
but actually
seems like
عشان anxiety دي I've had anxiety when I was a kid.
And I have the same problem as don't let me مثلا even in a vacation أو كده.
Yeah.
My friends calling me like let us hang out. أيوة hang out نعمل إيه بقى؟
Hang
out ما تقعدونيش في حتة.
I don't mind sitting somewhere if we're actively having a conversation.
أنا كنت لسه هقول كده. So for example بقى if I start
بس قاعدة بعمل حاجة يعني قاعدة بشتغل.
يعني لسه بقى كنت هقول أنا قاعد بتمشى مش عارف أضع body. لو أنا بس there's a task at hand I can sit there for a day an entire day just sitting بس بعمل حاجة.
Yeah.
وجس believe it or not when I'm locked in خلاص the flow just goes so high.
ADHD is a fluctuation. It's not a deficit in attention. It's an inability to regulate your attention.
Yes.
So you either have your executive dysfunction where you can't work on something, so you have task paralysis, or the other side of it is hyperfocus, where you get lost in a task and you have no idea how much time is going on, where you can spend hours
which I love. When I لما بقى في الفيس دي I just love it. And this is
I love hyperfocus.
I have a problem with my
rewarding.
It's so rewarding بس بقى you know the downside of it when you have to stop it.
Yeah.
So for example you started that paper and اللي هو
you should submit it after 2 hours بس
لا مش كده
قاعد عليها عجباني لسه
مش قصدي كده you're into it ومش بس يا ريت خلصتيها انت ما خلصتيهاش and you can see the vision وخلاص inspirations are coming and everything حد لا الموبايل بيرن حاجه حد يعني
it breaks your hyperfocus
I can see and it's breaking my hyperfocus يعني مش بس اللي هو it breaks it
لا once you lose it you lose it
بالظبط لا تسبق اوكي خلاص الحاجه دي راحت let's retain that I can't.
I hate that. Yeah, no, it is. It's like, oh shit, it's gone. Which is why when I slip into hyperfocus, like I'll turn my phone off, I'll shut the door. And I get interruptions like, yeah, you should come eat something. And I'm like, I'm busy.
Actually, usually when I'm working, I can call someone and I can call my friend and I can work on 100 something while I'm calling someone. But I can't work while someone is around me.
It depends. Like if I'm in like a full hyperfocus on something, I zone out everything else except that thing. But if I'm generally working, I listen to music. I've like read a book
can't.
while talking
I
to
have a
someone.
bit-
especially لو مش حاجة academic, especially if it's something I
Mhm.
love, I just turn
Oh,
off
I can't listen to
everything.
music on
I'll be
the-
reading my book and speaking to a friend at the same time, and I'll be
Actually,
able to separate those
I'm
words.
reading my papers while I'm on the treadmill. يعني I'm working
Yeah.
while on the treadmill.
And I
That
do.
is actually really fun to do.
I
It's really
do.
nice.
Yeah, I do most of my tasks on the treadmill.
Yeah, it's really, it makes it a lot easier when
But
you're
actually,
moving
there's
around.
something I don't know why, but
Mhm.
I can't study except when the room is really almost like yellow light or
Mhm.
dark. But I can't study on a high white lighting. I don't know why.
I'm the other way around. I want the room to be really bright.
I don't know why, but like bright
أنا-
light بيعصبني.
طب قعدت سؤال, does it have, is it related to sound?
In what way?
So أنا ما أعرفش أنام,
Mm-hmm.
ما أعرفش أشتغل عشان أي حاجة إلا if it's like this.
Like silent?
completely. عارفة لو في دبانة
Mhm.
مش هعرف أنام.
It will distract you.
مش قصة ممكن أكون هنام يعني حتى مش حاجة محتاجة focus.
Yes.
So if I'm sleeping here وفي دبانة هنا, I will hear it و I will not sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So is that related?
I think being active the whole day هو السبب في الموضوع ده. إن أنت تبقى نايم وأنت دماغك شغالة أصلا.
هو what I'm sure of, I asked people about it and I have good quality sleep. لأن the whole day I'm just going around. فجسمي كله it really
Do you
rests.
feel well rested in the morning?
Yeah, lately.
Lately, okay.
لا بس lately ده اللي هو من 3-4 أيام يعني
Good
it's
quality
cycles.
sleep isn't
It's cycles.
reflected by what you manage to do in the day.
لا مش قصدي كده, أنا قصدي
I have insomnia as a side effect of ADHD.
I had. Is it related?
Yes.
Okay, طب
ADHD
can you talk to
comes
me
with
more about it?
comorbidity.
عشان I had. I've had, بس
Yeah.
now عشان I'm more conscious of it. بس I'm conscious of it as something I have. مش مش it being related to ADHD.
Yes.
بس لما عرفت okay now I need to اللي هو إيه see where my sleep goes.
I have trouble shutting my brain off, so it struggles for me to sleep.
Me.
Yes.
امبارح. especially when you're having مثلا إيه اللي هو you have يعني when you don't have مثلا a certain time you have to wake up in, it's okay ماشي حتى everything شوية بعدين هتنامي your 8 hours. بس مثلا you need to be in مثلا you need to be up by 9, so you're gonna go to bed by 12 or 1, but then you start overthinking and so فتروحي في النوم على الساعة 3.
Yeah.
And then you just have 6 hours of
It takes
sleep.
forever to fall
Actually, I
asleep,
have a
or
problem
sometimes I'll just keep
sleeping
waking
أصلاً.
up.
يعني I don't know why if this is related to ADHD.
Mhm.
بس أنا I don't sleep for more than 5 or 6 days and suddenly like I'm literally killed 8 hours sleeping ورا بعض وده كده أنا جبت آخري يعني 8 ساعات أنا كده. I don't know why. I don't know what the problem with sleeping if it's related to ADHD. And once one of my friends قالت لي لا because you always have a 1 gram phase so I never I don't know if it's related مش عارفة.
No, if you can go days without sleep, like multiple days without sleep, that's more.
Because
it could
I want
be
to work.
related to something,
Because I
but
want
it
to
is
work.
a
Like,
form of
I
insomnia.
feel like I want to do something.
Form of ADHD?
It's a form of insomnia. What it's caused by is what you need to work out.
I don't know what.
بالظبط.
I feel like.
So since
yeah.
I started taking the زي ما قلت لك يعني what I've اللي أنا غطست فيه قوي was martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
So بس this semester, so starting from September I started taking the gym seriously. واللي هو I was like okay, and this time بقى بالتاني I was like consistent.
Mm-hmm.
مهما كان أيا كان you will go to the gym, and since then I'm proud to say إن هو from September every day every week I haven't skipped one day حتى أنا عيان, which I know was not the most healthy thing. بس اللي هو I've gone there. I'm always having those mental battles with myself اللي هو لو تعبان بس روح عشان I can't afford not going يعني I would هتعب أكتر mentally.
Yeah.
And lately that's فاكر لما قلت لك lately I've been getting good sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can relate إن هو it's because of workout. Lately I've been getting very very good
I'm
sleep.
working out, but
Working out releases
never.
endorphins.
مش عارف بس I've really been يعني especially the last month
Mhm.
I've been getting really really good sleep.
That's good.
Like يعني 7 hours sleep for me. قبل كده ممكن اقعد lately ممكن اقعد يوم كله في السرير وابقى لسه تعبان.
Mm-hmm.
It
Okay.
may help بس I don't think إن it's the.
As of me انا الeffects اللي شايفها بجد بصحى I'm energized like أكني نمت يومين 3.
It might be the way you're exercising. You might be finding the right way to
It's
work
vigorous
out for
exercise. Like I really kill myself in my workouts. مش حاجة بس عشان I love it.
you. As long as you enjoy it. That's
Yeah,
what
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah,
مش
no,
حاجة
I
كده.
get what you mean. Like I
Yeah.
would be dying at the end of my workouts at the gym. It was the best
And you're
feeling ever.
having a blast.
Exactly. And then, like, for me, I used to find that I wouldn't like to work out at night, but I'd work out in the early evening because after I take a shower, I get a burst of energy from the endorphins and everything.
According بس بقى أظن على حسب what shower.
What type
So
of workout?
يعني
What
لا
type
يعني
of
لو
workout?
الشاور ده ساقع you would get energized. ساعات لما أنا مثلا ما عرفتش آخد شاور الصبح فهاخد بالليل لا if you're just
A
going to
warm
sleep
shower.
a warm shower and بنام وانا في
Yeah.
الشاور
بس لا
literally.
بس في فرق بين
Not literally,
يعني مثلا it really differs من type of workout. لو cardio it's completely different from
as of my
workout.
case it's weightlifting.
ما هو weightlifting
I did
مختلف.
combined workouts.
cardio بيصحصح مش بينيم.
So I would integrate cardio
Yeah.
in between sets of weightlifting.
I don't need to قوي عشان now I'm bulking.
Yeah.
I need to eat between sets. فبس as of weightlifting for me now. يعني I can say إنه بالذات for martial arts you know how cardio heavy it is.
Yeah, but you should be doing cardio for your stamina as well.
I'm doing it كده بس
Yeah.
يعني مثلا one session per week. لا in boxing
It's
I
not
was
necessarily a session. You should warm up and cool down with it, but you should also do it for your stamina while you're lifting.
okay.
Like you should start with some cardio to
I started with some cardio
to warm
كده.
yourself up, and you should integrate
I run
it a
before
little
and
bit
after.
during every workout.
I run before every workout.
Yeah.
I give it like مثلا 10 minute 15 minute run.
Like I went through a period of powerlifting, and during that time, cardio was really important. Was almost as important as lifting the weights.
Why?
It warms up your muscles. It gets your blood flowing.
But that before it.
It builds up your stamina.
But كده
And
before-
cooling down after. It stops muscle soreness.
But
The reason that your muscles are sore
They're
after
sore.
a workout is because you don't have enough oxygen getting to them.
oh.
The soreness from the next day could be from small tears, muscles rebuilding.
ما هو that's the point أصلا.
But the
It's
soreness
tearing the
after a
muscles.
workout and the soreness that you feel if you get a muscle cramp.
I don't have like right after the workout مش بحس بأي soreness. It's mainly
The next morning.
The next morning, which is the muscle tearness, which is good. عشان I'm
Which is
building,
good, yeah.
building muscle.
But preventing muscle cramping, preventing soreness after your workout
ما قالتليش. Mainly because I've just been practicing cardio for
is
like.
stretching and cardio.
Mm.
Because it's all about oxygen reaching your muscles.
Yes. أيوة بالظبط. We did a lot of workouts without being wearing a mask عشان to
Yeah.
force my body to get in
To
oxygen.
use oxygen better.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
it's related. بس مثلا I can say إنه as of
Athletes use that and they do something that's illegal now, but it's called blood doping, where they take a bag of their own blood
I know.
and they reinfuse it
I know.
so that they have more
It's done in
hemoglobin to
martial
work
arts.
more.
For muscle, it's done in martial arts.
It's illegal.
Yeah.
In all sports.
Yeah, بس عشان it's not done officially.
Yeah.
People get away with it. So
It's
عشان
done off record, but they check.
at some point in my career, which was 1 year ago, so
Mhm.
when I was entering uni, okay,
Yeah.
I took it professionally. I was considering it professionally. Well, I
Mhm.
was training I was training.
As though you're going to continue it professionally.
Yes, 6 times a week, full diet. So I think ممكن يكون ده the reason ممكن تكون مسمعة معايا لحد دلوقتي
Mm-hmm.
إنه my body is used to getting in oxygen.
Yes, it would. As long as your body's learned to continue to use oxygen efficiently, if you train your body to do something specific, it tends to stay like that.
Okay, hello. Okay, so going back to the main problem, the main topic, which is
Sleep and
ADHD. Oh, but I loved it when we were diverging.
It's also very common. You'll be speaking about more than one thing. You'll have multiple topics throughout
طيب.
the conversation.
Literally.
Everything will flip-flop all over the place,
Yes.
and you can maintain more than one train of thought in a conversation.
I'm just open. هو when I'm reflecting back on myself and my behavior, عشان I'm someone that really records his behavior. هو أنا بشوف أنا بعمل إيه. That's like a second.
ADHD people tend to be very self-aware.
You get really. Wow. Okay, so because I tend to really watch my behavior.
Especially when undiagnosed, you tend to be very self-aware because you don't know where your behaviors are coming from. You don't have an explanation for it.
بالظبط. ما هو that right now I'm getting my first explanation ever after 19-20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to what I wanted to say اللي هو لما أنا when I'm اللي هو I tend to monitor my for no reason. I just tend to monitor my behavior. As you're telling me, I'm relating with هو
Yeah.
this happens. This happens. Someone else maybe اللي هو okay, I don't really remember عشان I don't really monitor myself and my actions.
Yeah.
But I really do monitor them.
Do you have this issue sometimes where you can remember really specific things about things in general, but then someone asks you what happened in the class you just left and you don't remember?
Literally. Like I can remember as of now I can remember الدانسور اللي هناك ده الفونت بتاعه. بس I cannot remember for example ممكن بكرة what you were wearing أو مثلا you were wearing green. So ممكن أنسى ده بس أفتكر إن الدانسور ده كان مش عارف لونه إيه وكان شكله عامل إزاي.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Like I can right now tell you where a specific blue pen with the certain pattern on it is in my room, but I could not tell you what I ate yesterday. I have
النهاردة
no
الصبح.
idea.
I
No,
can't
so-
remember people names but I can remember everyone like literally كان لابس ايه من فوق لتحت في يوم ايه.
I don't forget people بس I forget the names.
Yeah.
Like أنا لو في شخص شفته مرة
مخه اتحفر فوق الأوضة.
I'll know
I'll
who
not
they
forget.
are. Like I'll know that I met them and where I met them and how I met them, but I
لا
don't know who
ممكن
they
مش قوي بس I just he would sound familiar. Like I saw you في حتة و probably it's كذا كذا و probably it's مش عارف ايه. طب is it برضو so you said إنه برضو it's اللي هو with thinking اللي هو you can diverge your thinking.
were. Multiple trains of thought at the same time.
So
But that's a symptom of a lot of things.
okay so هديك example عشان I can because I'm under myself I can في حاجة أنا بعملها and I know I do
Okay.
it and you can tell me. So I'm writing a research paper and I'm writing for example introduction. I can have ideas for the conclusion بسرعة أعمل enter and I go do it and I can finish the whole conclusion of the research paper I haven't even started because I have it already before I started I have اللي هو إيه
You've written the whole paper. You're thinking faster than you're writing.
I've visualized the paper already.
أيوة بس
Okay.
have you already collected the info ولا أنت كاتب الconclusion؟
يعني يكون the research paper is already
Like
there.
you're ready to get to writing.
Yeah خلاص it's ready to be written all over بس the thinking of يعني when before you write you start اللي هو بتركب كلام.
Yeah.
So I'm writing the introduction and you know a whole مثلا ايه 3 line but in the body paragraph would just pop in my mind ايه ده واطلع بسرعة ارجع اعملها. يعني I would throughout how I write a research paper أو حتى a paragraph it would not be in a linear way. It would be
Having
like
a separate document for essay planning is helpful with that. Because then you can jump into that other document, write down a bunch of bullet points so that you don't forget what you wanted to write.
but it's not
And
like
then
that.
continue to write linearly so that you can make sure everything flows.
بس so I tried this before بس بقى what would happen okay اللي هو ايه okay you wanted to highlight كذا 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 you want to talk about كذا لو I didn't write the idea that came into my mind at the same second حتى لما ارجع هنسى how I wanted to write it like I would exactly have the details of what I wanted to do مع اني كنت بفكر فيها.
You can continue to do that, but you'd need
I think
to
it's helpful
develop
but I think I don't know if
proofreading skills.
this
So
is-
you need to be able to
yeah.
go back over it and make sure everything flows. It's okay. Sometimes your thoughts won't be organized correctly.
it's
They just kinda come
okay
in the wrong
here's the
order.
thing always
Yeah.
it's always that way. So yesterday I was writing before the email جالنا إنه هو we're not gonna have a reflection.
Yeah.
بعد الطاقة على طول عشان I had so many things to do اللي هو قلت ايه هعمل reflection من دلوقتي.
I mean, it's optional. You can still submit it. You
ما
get the
I'll
better
submit it
grade
عشان
for it.
I did it anyway I submitted okay.
Yeah.
So while writing it you can have like you'll see like a 3 different paragraphs of from the reflection of اللي هو ايه last part جالي في دماغي مش عارف ايه يعني I'm just when I'm writing it's not like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 it's like 1 8 5 4 6 8 9 فاهم قصدي؟
Yeah.
So it's not going in a linear way it's اللي هو ايه it's so disorganized but at the same time it's helpful بحس ان هي it's helpful فاهم قصدي؟
I get what you mean. And I get what you mean with like things being all over the place.
Yeah. In a good way.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you can work things out and be
I
able
can
to
but
write
I don't
them
know if
correctly.
it's a thing أصلا I'm just throwing it.
Yeah, it can be the disorganized thought, but it's not a
Disorganized
defining factor
helpful
by itself.
yeah.
Okay. So Aman had asked a really good question about what's the purpose of being diagnosed?
عشان how because I think
Yeah. How does it help?
how
Especially here in Egypt. So schools are starting to recognize it for starters. Like that's something that's
yes,
being really
Hamza
helpful.
my younger brother.
Yeah. And then the other thing, I got diagnosed while I was in university. And the psychiatrist I was working with before I got diagnosed was trying to encourage me to get accommodations for these like sort of outlaying things under the title of anxiety and depression. And I was like, no, I don't have anything that like really insists on me requiring any kind of accommodation, and I don't need things like extra time on exams and all of that. So I was like, why would I do that? Then I got my ADHD diagnosis.
أنا أول حد بخلص.
Yeah.
If you think about it
Then I got
from
my ADHD
scientific.
diagnosis, and I was like, maybe I do have something that I could use some extra help with. And I spoke to the disability office, and they were like, no, there's no list of accommodations to choose from. It's up to you. Like, you and your psychiatrist come up with a list of things that you need, and you submit that to the university. And what we submitted was that I would take a 5-minute break in the middle of my exams. Like, just take a walk, take a breather, come
I
back.
would need that.
Yeah. Sometimes I'd get extra time on assignments, because if I was overloading
But
that semester...
it's not like an emergency. بس هو it would help.
Yeah. I would get extra time on assignments as needed. So the important thing was I had the same deadline as everybody else. But if I didn't submit on that deadline and I submitted 2 days later, I wouldn't get the late penalty.
I think it's also important for the family.
Yeah.
Because some families, they are not aware of what is ADHD
Yes.
and they suffer with the idea. If anyone have watched اسمه خلي بالك من زيزي.
Yes.
خلي بالك من زيزي.
Yeah.
هي الفكرة ان when her family are aware بان هي عندها ADHD ابتدوا
Yes.
يفهموا هي كانت بتصرف كده ليه.
Yeah.
يعني ابتدوا يتعاملوا معاها على اساس ان انا خلاص انا فاهم ان ده الموضوع، لا انت مش بتهزري يعني ده مش حاجه مش فاضه مثلا، فانت يا باشا بتضحكي كده او انت يا باشا سمرجله او انت يا باشا.
Yeah.
ف it's important for the people around us.
It is. It's helpful.
Wow.
It helps you as well when you know that there's nothing wrong with you. That's just how your brain works. You're not a mistake.
Relief.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's nothing wrong with you. That's just how you are, and that's okay.
بالظبط. We uncovered a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm really يعني this 35 minutes كانوا بالنسبة لي educational more than like a سنة.
You're gonna go get tested after this.
I'm gonna go بس by the part of it اللي هو I'm gonna go get tested و part of it اللي هو ايه واو اللي هو this is a thing و somehow I'm happy of my consciousness
Yeah.
about it.
It's really relieving. Like
Yeah.
even my mom was like, "Why are you happy to be diagnosed with ADHD?" And it's like, it's not that I'm happy to have it.
بس like I have
I'm happy to know that I have it.
بالظبط
Like I would have had it either way, but now that I know, it's such a huge weight lifted off.
بدل ما me مثلا just beating myself up for
Yeah.
certain times without knowing anything.
Yes, exactly. It's not happy to have a label, like to be labeled with ADHD.
Exactly.
It's happy to know how my brain works now and know there's nothing wrong with me.
Yes.
It's just how my brain works, and that is okay.
بالظبط yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah.
It's very relieving. Like if you
Yeah.
feel like something's wrong, do your research. If you find yourself connecting to a lot of creators that have a certain mental illness, get it checked out.
Yes.
Too many people are shitting on self-diagnosing, being like, no, you can't do that because you're just gonna give yourself a label and go with it. Like, no, if you feel like you relate to something and that having that title would help you, or using their techniques to fix things is working for you, do that. Get
Yes.
tested, work it out.
Here you have it. That's
Yeah.
the punchline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's worth getting things that you believe you may have checked.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Anytime.